Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe and Matt Schwartzler back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch. You just heard the ad read. No need to repeat what I have so wonderfully recorded earlier. I can't riff any better than I can write a script. So, Matt, this week's preview, it feels a little weird.
It's pretty sad, you know.
Yeah.
The final chapter for a conference in football, anyways.
Yeah, it does feel weird. I'm sitting here arranging stuff, in my slideshow, making sure it's perfect and going, this is the last time I'm going to be doing this. And for one of these teams, it'll really be the last time I'm doing it because they're heading up to D2 next year. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's a weird. It, we've covered schools that closed, but I've never done a conference before. This is a little wild.
This is rare air that we are in right now.
And so obviously we are doing tonight the North Star, the final edition of the North Star. And Matt, well, let's start with the bottom in this one, and it's going to be the Mayville State Comets, the 3-8 team from a year ago. They were up 6 actually from 2022, including a 22 position swing up on defense. Except that number can't be right if I do that. Ignore the number there. It's fine. That is actually supposed to be a 65. Obviously, I can't tell what I'm doing. The only trouble is you're down 64 spots on offense, and that's a toughie.
Yeah, this was an offense that we saw thrive, even when they weren't winning games necessarily. Like they were airing it out pretty frequently, and didn't do they didn't do that at all last season. But on the bright side, they do have their all-conference quarterback and wide receiver from that passing game coming back, so hopefully they can kind of tug that along back to where we've seen it. But yeah, they have a lot of pieces coming back.
Yeah, they really do. It was only maybe like one or two out of the entire team that was a senior, including Zach Caesar, the first teamer O lineman that's coming back or that's leaving. But you're returning literally the entire offense and the entire defense. Aside from a guy here or there, I think it was like 1% leaving of production in terms of
Yeah,
that, and I call that pretty entire. So could Mayville figure out how to get out of the basement for the first time in a long time?
I think they're set up for it. I think it looks good for them on paper right now.
Really does. We did talk about that. Had a whole lot coming back. Then we turn the page over, and Matt, I know this is going to be your favorite 5 minutes for ever. That's going to be
Always
Dakota
is.
State, and they were down 35 spots in SP Plus from a year ago, precipitated by a 35 place drop on defense. This was a team that was really good last year on defense, or in 2022 was really good on defense and just could not keep it going. Matt, I know that you got to see them a little bit more, I think, than I did. Talk to us about that squad.
Yeah. Hey, they got some nice pieces coming back. It did feel like with the roster that they had last year and the year before were kind of the two big years for them to have done something and kind of made their strike at the top, which we did see. They did win a decent amount at least a couple seasons ago. But still, this is a team that is now struggling offensively. You got have guys coming back, but you need to fix a lot. 92nd isn't something where if you just get the right guys, it's gonna 180 necessarily. So I don't know what the deal there is, but they have some pieces coming back, like most every team does, but they have some nice spots.
Yeah, I mean, you do bring back your quarterback. You bring back an all-conference running back. You
Mm-hmm.
bring back a first-team all-conference long snapper, and
It's the most important.
that is definitely most important. And
Yes.
and on top of that, I mean, you do return most of your offense between your quarterback there and Hedrick and Ortman at your running back position, and a majority of your wide receivers. Austin Lake leads that. But you're gonna have to figure out how to return, or you're gonna have to figure out what to do on defense, or you
Mhm.
might continue to make a slide there, um, because you're returning only about half of your defensive backs, and in a conference that is okay with doing both running and passing, you're gonna have to figure out what your defensive backs are doing, and you're gonna have to do it quick. Um, you know, who knows on that first game, Matt? I don't know what Dak West has coming back on offense specifically off the top of my head, but
Mhm.
it's going to be a new look offense, and obviously Dakota State, Dakota Wesleyan, the Ag Bowl there is one of the couple of games that we really look forward to kick off our college football season. Um, and so is it going to be a Dak West team that's going to be able to test state through the air, you think, this year?
In my completely unbiased opinion, I'm going to go with yes. I do think that the receiver room actually, they lost a couple of guys, but it's in better shape than what people would expect, and they have a quarterback that will be starting for the first time, but has been in the program for a couple of years now. So I think they can get that done.
Yeah. So we'll see with Dakota State. It was a down year last year. Uh, our next team up took a step back last year, but they're taking a huge step up in 25. A 1-year rental for the North Star, and another team that starts our college football season off right. The Jamestown Jimmies, usually the first game to get started in the college football season against Valley City State in the paint bucket game. It's the last year for them in the NAI before they move up to D2. Last year, they were down 10 spots. Um, and that was headlined by a 34-place drop on offense and a 12-place improvement on defense. You're getting close. You're within about half a yard of parity between your yards per play.
Yeah. I also just have to mention I got to salute the Jimmies for a great 6 years of service in the GPAC. It was a fun run. Feels weird that I was on the field for four of those, which is a weird thing to have happened. But yeah, good luck in D2. You're in a decent spot in the North Star for this year, I think. This is a team I know the Coach Mistro, has done a fantastic job with this program. And while the wins and losses might not always tell the story for them every year, they are very competitive. They really upped their game once they moved conferences from the North Star originally to the GPAC because it was so much tougher. Um, you know, this is a team in a good spot.
Yeah, it is. And, for your entire athletic department to be moving up to D2, as long as you've got the institutional support to be able to handle the increased amounts of scholarships you've got to provide in D2 for whatever sport. Some sports, it's not as bad. The NAI actually has more allowances for scholarships than D2 in some sports. But in football, you're going to have to take a step up by about, I think it's like 14 scholarships more in D2 than it is in NAIA. It's been a while
Yeah,
since I've checked.
yeah. I think too for this team, it's crazy that they still have most of their guys coming back amidst a lot of this change for their athletic department and their football team. Obviously, on the defensive side of the ball, you have Mason Parker and Herschel Jefferson coming back from the All GPAC team. Um, it's a good sign for them. And you're only losing one, albeit first team all conference guy, but Paul Vandal obviously is a loss for your D line up front.
Yeah, I mean, 18 tackles for loss is not something you just replace all willy nilly, but you are returning overall a majority of your team between your offense and defense, majority on both sides. Um, your D line is really where you're going to have to take a step up. Tyler Dean is going to be your right end leader there. You've got a quarterback battle going into camp between John Grant and Nick Martinez, figuring out what's going on there. You return about half of your running backs with Zachariah Hammett being the headliner there. But yeah, there's a couple spots here that you've got to figure out, and you get tested right out of the gate here, and that's going to make that late August. We're only a month away. That late August matchup between them and Valley City to be a really interesting one as we see if Jamestown can prove they belong in their sole year in the North Star this go around. So we will step away here on the NAIF Ball Podcast and hear a word from our friends at AdCraft.
So you want to create and sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today, and let's bring your merch to life.
And that is exactly what they do. They're so good at it. Phenomenal guys there at AdCraft. NAI, born and raised there, making it happen, and some incredible merch. This will be a little dated by tomorrow, but they did some fun Dunder Mifflin spoof clothes on their Twitter page today. Love to see them going behind the scenes and showing you what it's like and the quality of merch that they have that you can have in their web stores that have your team's name and logo on them, shipped directly to your fans. They handle the customer service. You've got to check them out. They are the best in the business. Well, Matt, we covered one side of the paint and bucket game. What say you we go to the other? And that's going to be Valley City State, a great year, or a good year for Valley City. They are net zero overall. They didn't move in SP Plus. They went up 23 spots on offense, lost 13 spots on defense. But you're able to you're in kind of your own strata. Stratum, I think is the singular of that. You're in your own stratum now without Waldorf having moved over to the GPAC. So there's no fighting between you and Waldorf anymore of who's got that number 2 spot. You might have your hands on a clear-cut number 2, and if you're able to escape a little bit of nastiness, who knows? You might be able to challenge for a back-end playoff spot.
Yeah, the past few years, this has been a squad that has been pretty much the number 2 in the conference. They've had a shot at this title, I feel like, for a couple of years now against Dickinson State to kind of dethrone them. And I think the story is not much different this year. I think they have a chance to get their last get back, I guess you could say, before everybody dips out. But this is always a squad that is well coached. I'm always very high on, and I don't think much has changed for my opinion on them this season.
Yeah, and for those watching on video, no, that is not this time a misprint. They do have a D lineman, first teamer, all North Star, Georgie Maggio, and then I really would assume his brother, a year behind him, Georgia Maggio. That is, man, Matt, can you imagine having to call that? It's not like they're in two different spots on the team. Good gosh.
Yeah. Do you just go by A and E since those are the only letters that are different in their names?
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, it's easy to call because they're both that good, right? They're both all conference guys coming back, and their secondary too, with the Olsen and Spivey is unreal, absolutely unreal.
Yeah, and I mean, you are going to lose the Florida guy, Justice Bice there, the Crestview native, along with a couple of O-line spots. So that's really going to be something that you're going to have to patch up. And then you'll lose kind of the heart of your defense there. Talked about that a little bit, but Riley Gerhart has been the dude there for a while. Jahidi
Absolutely.
West has been amazing. Those two combined last year for 126 tackles. Or sorry,
Mhm.
226 tackles. I'll get my hundreds right here in a second. Two guys, 226. Then you have Paco Balthazar on the back end, who added 56 of his own, forced fumble and an interception. You're going to have to figure out how to replace them. Those are not easy pieces to replace. And yeah, you've got Olsen and Spivey in your backfield, and Majeo on the front line. But who's going to replace Jahidi West is really, I think, the question.
100%. But they still just have so much coming back. It's again, I'm always high on this team. I'm going to remain high on this team. They bring back so many people that were contributors last year. Um, I think they're fine. I think they will be where they usually have been, which is a solid number 2.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. The Paint Bucket game will reveal a whole lot about both Valley City and Jamestown, and what the future holds for both of those teams. But you know, there can only be one auto bid, and for the last 450 years, the winner of the North Star feels like it's some
Feels
years.
like it. Yep.
Death, Taxes, and the Dickinson State Blue Hawks. It was a really good year for Dickinson. They had a
Yeah.
really good squad. Your top 20 in both offense and defense on SP Plus. Your top 15 overall in SP Plus. You've got a 2.5 yard gap in your favor in your yards per play. And you're returning so much that I have to actually split it into 3 slides. Or 2 slides for your returners.
Yeah, this Dickinson State team was. I'm pretty sure in the preseason last year we kind of had our questions about them, but they shut us up pretty quickly. Obviously, you have an entire page basically of first team all conference guys on the offense, including 3 linemen and tight ends, and your quarterback running back duo. That's unreal.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous is the word that you're looking for. And the fact is that running back Zuroff. I mentioned this when I talked with their folks over there in the off season. I'm looking to grab the team who it was that said this. I was listening to their that playoff game. I don't think it was Montana Tech. I think it was I think it might have been Grandview. Or no, maybe it was Tech. I think it was Tech. And their announcer said, I can't believe Zuroff hasn't come off the field at all on offense.
Yeah.
He has just been, and he hasn't gotten any slower. How can they run him so much? There's no other running backs really on their stat sheet. How is he still this good this close to the end of the season? And Matt, I'm going to tell you the answer to that question. It's three first team all NSAA offensive linemen and 1 second team offensive lineman.
Yeah, that's a pretty good squad to run behind. If you're running back, I'd be a big fan of that.
Yeah, I mean Mac truck size holes there.
Yeah.
And then defensively, it's not that much shorter. Like
your entire linebacker room is coming back.
Right? And Jaden Hartwell's coming back. Matt Anderson's coming back. it goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
The one question mark I'm going to have, though, is your wide receivers.
Yep.
You're losing Sickler, you're losing Kuntz, you're losing Shepard. And you've got to figure out a way to replace, quick math, 17 or 1,800 yards
Mm-hmm.
of receiving and 20 touchdown catches.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're at least in a decent spot to where they have the running back to fall back on
Yeah.
and the quarterback to fall back on. I think that there are a lot of talented pass catchers out there, and Dickinson State, in at least the context of the North Star, always seems to reload. This is kind of the same conversation last year when there were a couple of position groups in a similar spot. We're like, we just don't know. Like, maybe this is the year, and it never is. They had their best season, even by their standards
Yeah.
of always being in the playoff. Last year was an exceptional year for them.
Yeah, 100%. It's and with the playoffs now the way that they are,
Mm-hmm.
this is a Dickinson State team that could reasonably host a playoff game. And that's something that they've been wanting to do for a
Yeah.
while because they understand that's the way to playoff success.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at a team that brings back a majority on both sides of the football. Your only two spots that you've got to really look out for is wide receiver and D line, where you lose Crew Mathern and Austin Dennis. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about that linebacker core. They also bring back a guy who was hurt all season last year, who was a All North Star guy in Keaton Meshke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said what I said about Valley City. You're not getting an auto bid more than likely if you're Valley City, unless Dickinson State has the worst case of the injury bug that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put up a fight against Dickinson State and you go undefeated otherwise, and Dickinson State just goes nutso on every other team on their schedule,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to think that makes Valley City look like a back end playoff team if they can manage it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt, I mean the winners are our winner pick is it is what it is. You go first.
Yeah, Dickinson State, not really that surprising. I think Corey's gonna have to agree with me.
Death taxes in Dickinson State.
Yeah.
Now, the problem here is going to be our dark horse. And
Yeah.
Matt, what do you got? Who you got for your dark horse?
I'm pretty sure every time in the G Pack, anyways, that I didn't pick Dakota Wesleyan as my dark horse, it was Jamestown. And I'm rolling with it again. I speak very highly of this program. I think they're doing good stuff. I mentioned it. They're on their way up to D2, so they're already looking. Not so far down the road, but they kind of know what their new ceiling is per se. So I think they're in a good spot. I think they return a lot. They're well coached. A few years in a much tougher conference in the GPAC, I think will serve them very well here.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's going to be self-explanatory based on how I talked about them. I'm going with Mayville State. Roll
Mm-hmm.
Mets. I really like what they're doing up there. I like what Rocky Larson's doing. They have gotten so much better. It's not even funny
Mm-hmm.
against what they used to put out on the field.
Yeah.
Doing a phenomenal job, and I'll go ahead and win up my bet. I'm going to say that Mayville is kind of in the mid tier in the North Star this next year. Don't know how it'll exactly fall out, but I think you'll see them take a step up out of the basement. So then, let's see how they stack up. The last iteration of the North Star in our conference ranking. And you know what? They're not the worst.
They're not last by a couple spots.
They're not even second to
Yeah.
last. They
It's not bad.
Yeah. I was quite surprised when I saw that one, when I saw that number pop up and I saw where it slotted in. Now, granted, for the standard deviation, it's a whole lot easier to get a small standard deviation when you have a smaller pool to pick from. So that's why you're going to see the North Star there at number 3. It's hard when you get to these bigger conferences that are 11 to keep standard deviation close between everyone. But that 24 is not bad. You're just behind the Bissell division of the KCAC and in the Mid-South, and that's nothing to be ashamed of.
For sure.
And here's where we're going to continue to make people mad. I'm going to say the North Star is numerically far clear of the Mid-States Mid-East, and both sides of the Heart. Heart South, there it's close, but they're clear of the Heart North by a point and 3/4. That, to be quite honest, is not where I thought that would end up, especially when we're talking about including last year's historical data.
Yeah. The numbers are lying.
The numbers are the numbers are what the numbers are. I mean, this is last year. The North Star was 6th overall.
So they're up a spot.
Yeah. Overall, they're a 6.5 for just this year, which ties them with the GPAC and the Heart South, just behind the Bissell, for just 2023's performance. And that's going to slot them in right there at that 5 spot. And we'll see, because we've got the Sooner coming up, and got 2 more teams to make this happen, including the conference who had the national champion last year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I know, Matt, we don't have to really see what happens with us because of the support of our patrons. They are there month after month, making sure that they take care of us, and they do such a good job of it. If you want to support what we do, like I say every week, the easiest way, simplest way is to join our Patreon. $1 a month gets you pre-access to a lot of the content during the season. It gets you access to subscriber-only streams that we do. We'll definitely be doing one for that first slate of games in late August. Those are Patreon only, so you should join the fun. So our patrons are DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vobble, Fred Christensen, Jerry Quickle, Ace Wellen, Brett, Marty Siebolt, Nick Ryan, Hayden Ferrigno, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julian Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Loudon, Dale Norton, Nathan Moore, Dylan Gonzalez, Ryan, Jason Crawford, Charles A. Flowers, Todd Nick, Sean Chamberlain, Zach Lance, and Josue Trujillo. And Matt, it is we are officially right. I think we're at a month and a week.
It's wild.
It is wild.
Didn't think we'd ever get here, and you blink.
I love it. It is so close. Just 2 podcasts and gonna try to make sure that I nail down the interview with the home office, talk about the state of the sports, and see what's going on there with them. But it's gonna be a fun season, Matt. You got any more thoughts on the North Star? And oh wait, we need to probably talk about where they're going. We talked about them going away, but they're not really going away.
Yeah, Jamestown is going to D2 after this season, like we mentioned. Frontier takes what? Dickinson State.
I'm pretty sure the Frontier grabbed all of the rest of them.
Yeah, Dickinson State, Mayville State. Yeah, Valley City and
Yeah.
Dakota State. Yep.
Yep. So they, as of May 21st, they grabbed them and Bellevue, who is
Mm.
non-football, which I think that's going to tip the Frontier over into two divisions, which
Yeah.
I think honestly is going to be amazing for the Frontier. I think that could be these teams could be what the Frontier needs to return to ruling the roost in the NAIA. You give them two
Absolutely.
playoff teams automatically, and
Hmm.
you give them a full slate of games to where they're not beating the crap out of each other.
Hmm.
And you could see the likes of Carroll come back and reestablish their spot upon the NAIA throne. I think it's a good spot because, I mean, if Dickinson State can hold their ground and if they can recruit and develop like they have the last couple of years,
Hmm.
they are going to, I do think they're going to challenge in the Frontier.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the North Star is going away, but they're all except for Jamestown are staying in the NAIA, just going to the Frontier. So that handles that. Anything else from the North Star?
Good on my end. It's going to be a fun finale.
Heck yeah. So with that, we bid you a good day, and we'll see y'all on the Twitter feed. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to our newest sponsor, Telemetry Sports. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe to the podcast and to our YouTube channel, and leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAF Ball and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.